Hoi hoi, it's louisity again, and for this reading vlog, we are going to read The Dark Prophecy by Rick Riordan, which is the second book in the Trials of the Apollo series. Hooray! So, we are moving on kind of quickly with this one. This is the Richard pick for my April 2025 TBR through the Alphabet TBR game. And honestly, I'm thankful for Richard for picking this one. I mean, regardless of which one he picked, I'm grateful because those are the books that I want to read, soon, and this is one of them. And yes, we are moving on quickly. I recently read The Hidden Oracle by Rick Riordan, which is the first book in the Trials of the Apollo series, and I enjoyed it. I'll put down the link of my reading vlog for that one. So yes, definitely excited that I'm kicking my April 2025 TBR, and let us begin reading this one. Here's a reading update. I've read more than 100 pages of The Dark Prophecy by Rick Riordan, and I'd have to say that there were a lot of things that were happening. We get to see some new creatures, a lot of new characters. We get to see somebody who helped Artemis, Apollo's sister, and we get to see a couple who decided to give up being immortal and being a huntress because they really love each other. And we get to see this place is called Way Station, where Calypso was brought because she was injured, and there were just a lot of things that were happening. And then there was, of course, this emperor called Commander. Did I get his name correctly? You folks know I'm kind of bad with names if you've been watching my vlogs. But anyway, yeah, somebody who is not supposed to be mentioned. And now Apollo and Calypso are heading onto a quest. And the last pages that I read was a dream. What you call this? Apollo gets to see that Meg escaped from Marcus, which dissatisfied Commander. Did I get his name correctly? Let me just check quickly. Commander. Calm. Oh my gosh. Commodus. Oh my gosh. I keep on saying okay. I would be corrected for that one. Commodus, okay? Pardon me, I told you I'm kind of bad with names. It's just for me so far, compared to the other books of Rick Riordan, there were a lot of things to absorb. And even comparing it to The Hidden Oracle, there were just so many things. And I'm still kind of processing what is going to be the overall arc of the story. I mean, I know that, Apollo's in search of another oracle, he needs to be in the throne of memory to kind of help him, grab this oracle as well. But I thought there were just so many things that are going on. But you still feel the joy and the excitement of the quest. Just a lot of things are just happening. A lot of characters are being introduced. And honestly, it's kind of if you're going to be reading, the books in the Percy Jackson world, or the Camp Half-Blood world, or the Greek mythology world of Rick Riordan, if that's what you would like to call it, because this isn't really revolving about Percy anymore. It's they have to be taken in certain levels. Definitely this is going to be a little bit more convoluted. I find it a little bit more convoluted compared to his other works. So I mean, I'm enjoying it, but I find it a bit convoluted for some reason. But we'll see how much invested I'm going to be towards the story. So yeah, I'll catch you folks later. Whoa. Here's a reading update of Dark Prophecy by Rick Riordan. I read 200 pages, and I have to say that it does have a lot of telling rather than showing, and some of the parts are a little bit convoluted, kind of like what I said in like the previous reading update. But I'm still invested with the story. It just doesn't feel like the same Rick Riordan writing compared to like the other book series that I've read from him, but I'm still kind of like connected with the narrative. I just think that some of the writing, like the writing style, is not exactly my cup of tea, but I'm still invested with the narrative. The narrative itself, it's just the way it was written. Like, we get to know about Apollo's thought process, but I felt like sometimes it deals with a lot of telling rather than like showing the scenes. But there are still great things about it, like the scenes itself, like, Meg coming back and all the actions that were like happening. I can still vividly picture them, and they still make an impact. There's not like a barrier that pushes me or takes me aback from the narrative or the reading experience. Yeah, and Leo and Calypso, I forgot to mention in the previous clip, their like relationship was depicted in a way that it would, unleash emotions out of you. Like, it would either make you think that they're cute, or you're like, ooh, what's happening? Like, I'm not really, like I said, a character driven person, like in terms of like the circumstances or characteristics of characters. It's not really like a huge like factor in the story. Like, if because sometimes I do think that there could be dullness. It's a matter of how it was like written, like the characterizations or circumstances. And the thing about like Leo and Calypso's like kind of you know bickering or banter, whichever word you can think of, like, was effectively done. I think that's kind of like what saves the story. I think the characterizations does. In terms of like the overall narrative, like the plot, it's still a little dry. So, but the characterizations do help in the narrative in some way. It's not just like they're just lovely characters per se. So, still a good one. It's just that the sequencing is a little bit sloppy because there's a lot of telling. And I kind of get what it tries to do with Apollo being kind of verbose. And at the same time, it doesn't help to me, like, it doesn't help to with like the overall narrative or pace. And because we are, reading a fantasy novel. And I mean, maybe it's because I've read a lot of Rick Riordan, but we'll see how it goes. I'm kind of just like halfway done now, and we'll see how it goes with the better half. I'll be giving more reading updates in the next clip, so I'll catch you folks later. Whoa. So here's a reading update of The Dark Prophecy by Rick Riordan. I'm at page 369, and a lot of things happen. We got to see the prisoners of Commodus being released. Also, Apollo or Lester heading to the cave of Trophonius together with Meg. They kind of had a bit of a reunion. And also, now that they're back in the way station and facing Commodus again. So I'd have to say that the succeeding pages or chapters got better. In terms of a fantasy novel, as I've said, I'm looking for like more action, and it was able to execute that. Now, I don't think it is a quest, but it does seem like it was a quest. It was definitely challenging, but basically like I'd call it like Apollo's mission. Definitely the way that the mission was exhibited, it was depicted in an intense way that it's really going to stimulate your brain. There weren't a lot of like side stories that didn't like and like everything made sense to the overall like narrative towards like the dark prophecy, the prophecy of Trophonius. Now, I'm not sure if it was answered, if like the oracle, the Trophonius oracle itself was like retrieved. But I'd have to say that it is going to make you, the scenes are definitely going to unleash emotions out of you, and it would, make you connected or captivated by the narrative. And also, there are a few things that like I was reflecting on when I was reading like the succeeding pages. I was thinking about like, is somebody like an ally of your enemy who becomes, of course, a former ally, who claims to be like a former ally? Can they be like your ally? Can they be trustworthy? Some of the things that like the succeeding chapters talked about, especially with Lit, they were wondering whether Lit should be given a second chance. Like, are all living creatures worthy of a second chance? Oops, there's a plane. Pardon for that one. Ooh, it's kind of loud. Ooh, loud plane. Ooh, okay. Oh well. Wait till the plane passes. Enjoy your flight. Anyway, going back, like, is Lit trustworthy? And also, another thing that I'm noticing is that, like, throughout the trials of Apollo, I mean, literally speaking, like, of course, Apollo is facing trials in order for him, to get, like, his throne back to immortality and be seated in Mount Olympus. It does tackle about, like, we get to see, like, Apollo being humbled, like, now that he realizes more as immortal, because there are definitely differences in becoming immortal. Like, there's that, like, emotion or having a soul, whereas with gods you're just more focused with, like, omnipotence, and Apollo is, like, depicted as, like, a self-absorbed character, and throughout the story, his characterization of being humble was depicted clearly. And I think that's, if you're looking for that, like, in a novel, I think that you would be able to appreciate that. And yeah, like, his annoying, like, characteristics were depicted well. Now, you could be annoyed at him, and that may turn you off in terms of the narrative. But if you're looking for something like in terms of clear or effective depictions of being annoying, now, Rick did that well. So yes, it started kind of slow and kind of like all over the place, convoluted, but throughout the succeeding pages, it became more captivating and more action-packed. There's more plot definitely now as we go along, with some, thought process of Apollo going on every now and then, some circumstances of Apollo. So definitely got better. I'm hoping the next reading update I'm going to share is going to be the last one, like me already finishing this one. And as you can see the previous clips, I participated once again in, the Pam's reading sprint. So thank you so much. This book belongs to Pam and Pam Shenanigans. I really enjoy joining the reading sprints. It makes me read the book. So just a little shout out to you, friends. So without further ado, I'll catch you folks later. I just finished reading Dark Prophecy by Rick Riordan, and I'm giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. Now, it started out kind of sloppy and a bit convoluted, but towards like the latter chapters, the action got more intense. It is much more, clear cut. Everything, was synthesized clearly in terms of the events and the narratives. Because, like I said in like the earlier clips, it was kind of like all over the place. It was quite sloppy, but it got better. And we get to know about like the prophecy through Meg. And basically that kind of like sets up Burning Maze, which is like the next book, and I'm excited to read it, although I don't think I'll be reading that anytime soon. I've kind of like want to hold on, kind of want to take my time with this series. But yeah, and basically in terms of like, as mortals, as human beings, we deal with relationships, and I like how it sort of gave that like indirect message, throughout the story, especially towards like the last part, in terms of the circumstances and how things were kind of like being talked about. And also because the book has a lot of creatures, if you're like an animal lover, you might like sympathize with like the scenes here. The griffins, oh my goodness, like the way that was narrated, I was feeling sad, which is, an implication that this book is an effective media. It's able to release emotions out of you. And to spoil you a little bit, Grover is back. And it's been a while since we read Grover. I don't recall reading him in Heroes of Olympus. Maybe he was there. Not sure if I recall clearly, but I know that it's been a while, and well, at least maybe it's because it's been a while for me, since it's been years since I've read Heroes of the Olympus anyway, so maybe that is why it feels like that for me. But anyway, I just like how the ending is like setting up towards like the next book, and we get to know a little bit about, well, not really get to know, but for some reason, personally for me, it's like I want to visit the state of Indiana. Like I want to go to Indianapolis and also do some book shopping. I know there are independent bookstores in Indiana. I've seen it from Sid Bookworm as well, and also online, and so yeah, it kind of made me think about Indianapolis and Indiana State as a whole, kind of like me wanting to visit there and just like do some bookstore, hopping, maybe even way south near, Louisville, near the bridge. I believe that if you're living in Louisville or maybe even like north of Louisville, you're familiar with the bridge, because I do hear that when I used to work as a U.S. recruiter. So yeah, but anyway, I enjoy this book, and yep, feel free to comment down below your thoughts about, this book or, the Trials of Apollo series so far, but do not spoil me, okay, even if I did spoil you. I mean, you can probably spoil me with like the first two books, but, for the benefit of the audiences or those who will be reading the comments, But yeah, like definitely don't tell me what books 3 to 5 are going to be. Like, let me see it for myself and let me be in the ride, let me just, buckle up, because I know it's going to be a long ride. So please, yeah, do not tell me about them. But yeah, feel free to just like share your emotions, your feelings, thoughts, but yeah, keep it like succinct. Or if this reading vlog motivated you to continue reading the Trials of Apollo series, and if you've made it this far, leave an office building emoji. So I hope you folks liked this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also click that subscribe button and hit that little bell icon somewhere down there to keep yourselves posted about my videos. And also put down links and handles on my social media accounts, so feel free to check me out and follow me there and support me there as well. As always, thank you so much for watching. Always be thankful and unleash the reader in you. Bye, y'all.